What's up, everybody? Cajun here, and welcome to a special episode of Slayin Cajun Podcast. Slayin Steven ain't here today, but I got...
Joshua Pirtle, a.k.a. J.P. Lylson.
He's a good friend of ours from Pro Wrestling Ego, and we're going to talk about what just happened with Hell in a Cell. We're going to get to the main event. First match up was Hardy versus Orton inside the Hell in a Cell. We all picked our position. Every one of us went with Hardy, but Orton came out on top with some sick and twisted methods.
If I have to say, even though we all went with Hardy and all that, part of me, respects Orton, respects what he's done with the business, and definitely I should have realized that Orton was probably going to come away with the win, considering his experience within Hell in a Cell.
I can see that as well, but I also could have seen Hardy pulling out some of his sick and twister side that we saw in TNA with Willow.
Yeah, again, Hardy, amazing competitor. He's not afraid to go to the limit, and he's not afraid to, do things that are out of the ordinary that nobody else has done before. Again, he's like a younger version of Mick Foley. Mick Foley, again, he's one of the main ones in WWE's recent history or past history that is not afraid to do anything. He's not afraid to fall off a cell into a table, nothing like that.
And we'll get something else he had happen to him during this pay-per-view later on.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I can see that as well. And I just don't understand why they wouldn't give Hardy the push. Yes, I can see what they're doing with this gimmick. Correct me if I'm wrong, Randy Orton. When he first started out, he was called the Legend Killer. Now he's trying to destroy the people that are trying to destroy his legacy.
Well, here's the thing. With Hardy's loss, it doesn't do anything to him because of how over he is with the audience. The audience still loves him no matter whether he wins or loses this match, considering also, again, it was his first Hell in a Cell match. Orton's been in Hell in a Cell before. Orton needed this because of the fact that he's trying to establish himself and the fact he's trying to take out WWE's most beloved as a heel.
Right. And I can say this. The ear thing, that made me sick to my stomach.
Yes.
All four of us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When it started out?
Yeah.
We're all sick to our stomach.
Yes. It was probably one of the craziest things I've seen in any match in history. The fact that he stuck a screwdriver through the ear, through the
gauge hole.
The gauge hole of Hardy's ear, and just twisted, and he twisted and twisted.
I'll say this, and you can vouch for this. I left the room because I was about to be sick.
Yeah, it was definitely not one of the sights I thought I would ever see in my life.
In the PG era.
Exactly. This being the PG era. Although we'll get to it a little bit later on with several of the other matches, but I think they're sort of morphing out of a PG era and trying to go into a new PG-13 era, modern era. So, yeah.
First off, this is the first time we see Orton bleed like he did on his back with the belt.
Yeah. It was definitely, to me, for the main actual show, it definitely was a good match to start out with.
Right. It was the first match, which was Hell in a Cell. Side note, right quick, this is going to be a tangent. I hate the new cell. I do not like it. And let me explain why. I like the dark colors. If they want to make it seem like a dark and twisted thing, they should make it like that. Not this bright red looking like a... Go ahead and open it. He's drinking a Red Bull because we've been up since about 3 o'clock watching wrestling. But the way it looks, they should have did blackout on the outside because hard cam. We both worked cameras before for wrestling companies.
Yep.
We know how important that hard cam is. That red is actually drawn away from the wrestlers.
Mm-hmm. As well as the fact, red, considering, especially with the Raw matches later on and all that, with the lighting and how the lighting hit.
It feels like it was very Raw oriented.
Yeah. And that's, this is a Hell in a Cell. This is a dual show, what they're making it right now. So,
it would have been a blackout. A blue on the outside, red on the inside, so it would have looked good as well.
Yes. That's what, Slayin Steven was saying. That's what all of us were saying, is that it would have been better in the end if they had stuck with the black on the outside of the cage and all that, the regular cage, but on the inside, done that red.
Right. The next matchup was Lynch Flair. We both... All right, let me tell you all the score system. After the first match, we were all down 0-1. The next match put me and Josh tied for first place with Becky Lynch, my honey, I wish, versus Charlotte Flair. Phenomenal match, actually. I'm not ashamed to say I enjoyed their technical skills that they showed. I liked how the match went, and all the spots were very spot on to both their moves, the figure eight and the disarmer.
Yeah, we didn't really get to see as much of the figure eight as I wanted to, if we did at all. Is actually, Charlotte more so, in my opinion, was actually just trying to stay alive against Lynch, who, again, now that she's heel, is showing a very different side than what we're used to,
Right.
is showing a more dominant side.
And I can see that as well. And here's something else I didn't think about. You ready? I think that we could have seen an amazing spot with Becky getting out of the figure eight and locking into this armor for a finish instead.
I believe so too.
But I think they probably planned that, but couldn't get it to come into fruition.
Yep.
And that match put me and Josh in first place, tied 1-1. We're actually doing really good on time. That's really good for us.
Yeah.
But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe down below, guys. Quick tangent. All right, the next match was the Raw Tag Team titles. Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins taking on the champions, Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. This match surprised me.
In my opinion, as well as I think I can speak for Cajun, I think I can speak for Slayin Steven, this was by far one of the most amazing matches of the night.
Yeah, it really, until later on some of the other matches, it really had the go home for the best match of the night.
Really, out of the first three of the main show, it definitely set the par for every other match that was to come tonight.
And we're going to talk about this finish, so I'm going to put a spoiler warning at the beginning of this video. The finish, when Dolph was about to get suplexed and Drew McIntyre hit the Claymore, that was a beautiful spot. You don't see something like that every day.
Nope, and that's what was so beautiful about it, is that you don't expect a match to end like that. You don't expect, especially a tag team title match, you don't expect it to happen
and
just
these
like
two
that.
well-formed teams.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they're going to book it later on, though. Rumor is that after, I think it's the show of shows,
The Super Showdown.
the Super Showdown, we're going to see heel turn on either team, or face turn on one team.
Yep.
That's the rumor.
By far, I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know about you or Slayin Steven, but I absolutely love this new tag team formation of Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre.
I can see that as well. I loved it. And I said this while we were watching the show. It's very Shawn Michaels Diesel-esque to me,
And
especially
again,
with the carry at the end.
at the very end after the match, y'all were pointing out that the same carry that Drew McIntyre was using with Dolph Ziggler after the match was the same carry that Diesel used against Shawn Michaels.
And there was a fun fact. This is what Steven told us earlier. During the show, we were talking about this, and he said that Kevin Nash would only come back if he was Diesel to one person, Dolph Ziggler.
Yep.
And this is our first time recording with my mic. Normally we're on Steven's Blue Yeti. All right, next matchup. Because I was going in with this match full of hope, and it failed me. And that was the Bryans and the Miz.
Mm-hmm.
That match failed me. They could have did so many tremendous spots with the women. Mm-hmm. We've seen Daniel and Miz go at it so many times.
Yep.
They just need to end that feud with the street fight between them two. But Brie and Maurice had so many opportunities to do amazing spots. They're not just a pretty face. They're both tremendous women athletes, former champions in their own right. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. And correct me if I'm wrong. They could have carried that match on their own.
Yeah. I think both of the women are very talented, even though we don't get to see a lot from them nowadays, now that they're not wrestling as much, with
and
Maurice.
They're both mothers.
Yep. Maurice just recently having her baby not too long ago, and then Brie before Maurice. But for the match, I will say that towards the end, when we started getting, Brie getting involved in trying to hit Miz.
That was fun.
And actually combining everybody to fight each other.
And we saw that as well at WrestleMania with Miz and Maurice taking on John Cena and Nikki Bella. Nikki Bella and John Cena, who I can't stand. I know I'm going to get heat for that in the comments. No, I don't care if y'all like it or not. But correct me if I'm wrong. He did the exact same thing with the double five-knuckle shuffle.
Yep. It's amazing to see mixed tag team matches when they're formed and when they're made
organically.
Yes. If it is a quote-unquote family feud like that going on, trying to make it
Sure,
a match.
Nikki Bella in the corner.
Yeah. I wouldn't say Nikki Bella, but like you were saying earlier on when we were talking about this match, they needed to have the women in the match more. That's what I missed about this match, is that It was mainly Daniel Bryan
And
and
Miz, and we have
Miz.
seen this since Brian was in NXT.
Yeah, and then what was really upsetting was at the very end of the match how Maurice actually won. I don't know if y'all actually saw in the video or saw in the actual event, but when Maurice reversed Bree's pin to pin her back, uh, Bree wasn't against. Bree wasn't against actually the mat, so part of her shoulder was up, and yet the ref still was counting that pin as if her shoulders had been down the whole time. So again, there are some frustrations and all that going on there, but I mean, overall, I wasn't against
I
Miz
wasn't
winning.
against that. It was just the fact that they're both tremendous athletes. Every person in that match, all champions, former champions, and held their own brand. And it just felt like a flat drink to me. It was like, we've already gotten this. Why do you want to keep giving it to us? But yeah, I just felt disappointed with how the match ended.
Yes, I mean, again, it had so much potential, but ultimately that match left sort of a sour taste in my mouth, and I didn't really like how they decided to end that, at least as far as we know, in that storyline.
Right. If that's the end of it, it's really going to, I'll say, aggravate the fans.
It's going to make them extremely mad.
And it was controversial.
Yep.
We'll see a lot of this tonight.
Yep.
Next up was the AJ Styles Samoa Joe match.
Speaking of controversial, goodness gracious.
I'm normally the guy who likes the baby faces.
Mm-hmm.
But in this match, I could not go for Styles. And I'll give my reasoning. And here's my reasoning. We see Styles nonstop. And we see this in TNA too, if some of you would go look at the history of TNA. They doing the exact same thing that they did in TNA with Joe and Styles. Joe and Styles put on a 12-match series, basically, in TNA for that X Division title. Sometimes Styles would retain, sometimes Joe would take it. And I guarantee you, at whatever it is,
The Super Showdown.
the Super Showdown, we're going to see Joe claim it, and it's going to keep this feud going all the way till WrestleMania. That's my prediction with it. I'm not happy with the ending because Joe deserved it, though.
I will agree. However, AJ Styles in this match, really showed again why he is the phenomenal one. This whole time building up to this match and all that, Samoa Joe has been doing anything and everything to get under Styles' skin, including dissing on his family.
Which is the right thing to do if you're heel. He's a phenomenal heel.
He is, and nobody can take that away from Samoa Joe. But when it came down to it, I felt personally that Samoa Joe could have shown more heel in this match.
Right. He could have, if they could have brought Styles' wife, Whitney or Wendy or whatever her name is.
Yeah, they could have brought his wife there, and there could have been more interaction between.
And here's something we didn't know because I don't have time to watch SmackDown or Raw because of work and school. And we just, before the match started, they showed the Night AJ. The final page just made me laugh because it was just a heel thing and it was perfect.
Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about, basically it was a picture of Samoa Joe holding the WWE World Heavyweight title with Wendy and AJ's daughter beside him.
And when we saw that, at the same time we were cracking up because we don't understand why we didn't think about the fact that he would do that. But again, it was a beautiful heel thing. But at the same time, we were laughing about that. It was also one of those things where we were like, oh my goodness, AJ Styles is going to beat this man up.
Right.
But in that match, we saw that Samoa Joe brought it to AJ Styles.
And I saw a move that we ain't seen in a while on the Muscle Buster.
Yeah. The Muscle Buster, is probably one of my favorite moves from Samoa Joe.
And people say, oh, it's a dangerous move. Not really. If the person taking the bump knows what they're doing. We both trained to wrestle. I had to stop for school and work. He is still going. This is why he's a close friend. Correct me if I'm wrong. The person taking the bump has to know how to take it properly.
Exactly. The slightest bit on the Muscle Buster, the slightest bit of movement off of landing completely on your back and taking that bump correctly will injure you in some way.
Cough, Tyson Kidd.
Tyson Kidd, who originally the reason why it was banned for a while in WWE.
Right. And that match put the score where I was losing because I didn't get predictions predictions right because I'm not that good at it. All right, the next matchup: Alexa Bliss versus the champion Ronda Rousey. It was actually, I'll say this, and then I'm going to go on my little tangent of why I don't like Rousey. It was a good match. They showed both women being incredibly strong. And showing they could carry a wet main event if they felt like it.
Yep, in certain aspects. Again, like you said, it shows that both women know exactly what they're doing in the match, even though Ronda's more fresh than Alexa is. And it shows that Rousey isn't as strong as everybody is saying that she is, and that the push doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to be the strongest out of every superstar.
Right. Look at some of the past people they've tried to push with Enzo and Cass. Enzo got hurt on his own stupidity. And there's a video, and I'm not going to link it because it's not family friendly, of, I can't think, Simon Scott?
Simon Gotch.
Who was talking to Enzo backstage about, like, are you sure you can do this? Yeah, man, I can do it. Gave himself a major concussion.
Yep, and put him out for a little while. With that match, Ronda Rousey and Alexa Bliss, they put on a good match. But again, it's just, Ronda's getting better each and every day as she's wrestling. But I'm still not a major fan of Ronda being in WWE right now because of the fact that, with her already putting on so many good matches, she should know how to do certain things, and yet she's still not selling certain things like I'm wanting to, or like she needs to. So, for example, there's one part where, her abdomen is hurting her and all that. She immediately ignores that fact to stand up and to face Alexa Bliss one-on-one, spreading out her abdomen and all that as if it's not hurt at all. It's just one of those controversial things where it's like, again, you need to show that you are hurting. You need to show that you've been put through the test, especially with the fact that this is one of your longest matches.
And another thing, we talked about this, and no one else was listening to us. I don't want to see her push like a Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
Short matches, 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
That'd be a waste of her talent. Yes, she's a greenie.
And yes, she is one of the baddest women on the planet, in quotes. But the fact of the matter is now she's in another company. She cannot be pushed still under that title when so
Until
many
she
people...
can prove it.
Until she can prove, and until she makes good with the rest of the company.
Well, here's what I think they could have done to prove that she's a bad woman. They should have put her in the Rumble, entry 3. But that's my point on it. And correct me if I'm wrong, we both I felt bad. Bliss is so phenomenal. See, I think they should honestly move her back to SmackDown and have her team up with Becky, and they could be a dominant heel team.
They can. Again, one of the main things why I wish to goodness that there was an actual women's tag team title.
You can make it both brands. That'd make it more interesting.
Yeah, make it the dual brand title. Make it just like the men's tag team champions were before they separated brands again. Again, Alexa. Even though I figured that Rousey was going to win, Alexa probably should have won that match.
Booking-wise, it would have looked better.
Booking-wise, it would have.
She's taking on someone in the form of a multiple women's champion, Hall of Famer, Trish Stratus. That would have put more build-up for their match.
Mm-hmm. As well as with Alexa Bliss, just like Becky Lynch earlier on in the night when she had her title match and won. Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch are just two of some of the most dedicated to the company. They work so much. They are like the workforce of the women's division.
Right. And that brings us to the main event. I don't know who does the booking for Raw. I don't know why y'all thought it was a good idea to bring Brock Lesnar back. But to you, I say this. You are the biggest nerd I've ever seen. Nerd! Sorry, that's mine and Josh's thing because we're big fans of the Bullet Club. But yes, it felt like a good match ruined. It was actually phenomenal. Even with Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre coming in. It was still a great match.
Yeah, it was.
And then we hear Brock's music.
And of course, that's the thing that ends it because, Brock Lesnar is,
Brock Lesnar, he's the golden child, still.
Pretty much, even though he's not technically wrestling or going to be wrestling for a little while anymore.
He's going back to the UFC, people.
Yeah, so
He's growing that facial hair out.
He is no longer going to be wrestling for the next few weeks to next few months, and yet he deliberately came in and interfered in this match, and that is what ended this match amongst two of the biggest powerhouses, if not the biggest powerhouses.
The two, all right, correct me if I'm wrong. I love heels. He loves heels. Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns are technically heels on their own.
Yeah.
The way they talk on the mic and the way they are in the ring, they're technically heels.
Mm-hmm.
Why bring in one of the biggest douchebags, basically, of WWE history, worse than Hardcore Holly, and ruin a good 5-star match? We heard leaks that Brock had his ring gear on. Sweatpants and a tank top, sleeveless, ain't no ring gear to Brock.
That ain't ring gear. However, he did bring the attitude of, you know what, you've taken what matters most to me, so now I'm going to take everything from y'all.
And this is what aggravates me. I'm a diehard Mick Foley fan. I met him when I was at a low point in my life, and he brought me back up. The way they did him in that match, they could have did so much more. They could have.
Again, they could have actually used him. Again, one of the biggest men in WWE who's not afraid to take or do anything.
Gets pepper sprayed.
Gets pepper sprayed by Paul Heyman, and that's it.
He could have brought out Mr. Sacco and got on Paul Heyman. Brock Lesnar could have grabbed him. F5.
And that would have been a whole lot better than what
that would have actually been a WWE moment for years to come.
Yep. One of the things I want to talk about is also about the fact that, you know, I understand that Brock Lesnar is this strong superhuman being within WWE's terms.
He's the new Superman.
But this man, all he did was do a very low kick to the door of the cell.
Supposed to be steel.
Supposed to be still, supposed to be strong and chained, closed. That chain came right off as if it was already unlocked, as well as the door came off, even though it was like a toddler kick to the door.
See, and I think they were trying to, like you said, they're trying to go into a PG style era, PG-13. They tried to replicate the Kane. That's my honest view on it. They tried to replicate Kane grabbing that door and saying, you know what, I want this. This is mine now. And ripping it off. Mm-hmm. Brock, yes, he's big, he's buff. His feet aren't, and I've done my research on UFC fighters. Brock isn't that strong in his kicks. Mm-hmm. If it would have been him grabbing it and shoving it down, that's one thing. Or tugging it down, that's another. Kicks, that ain't his strong suit. If you ever looked at his repertoire.
Again, at this point, I would have rather him ripped it off the door again and almost mimicked exactly what King does.
Instead of actually use it as a weapon.
Yeah, but
tell him about your botch call on that. Speaking of the door, when he's trying to set it up in the corner.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Him throwing or like sliding the door of the cell into the ring right before he started going after Strowman and Reigns, and him setting the door up in the corner, and then the door just slid towards the middle of the ring and didn't post like he wanted it to. Like, that was... He might as well have just left the door outside. Like, he shouldn't have even done that.
The thing I found entertaining from Brock's return was him using the door basically as a springboard to hop over the top rope.
Yeah. Like,
I found that entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen someone do that, though.
But, I mean, in the end, in a way, in Brock's terms and all that, it actually shows that it could technically, you know, he thinks outside the box on some of the things he does when he has improvised opportunities.
And I'll say this. The other two people we ain't talked about who did something insane. Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. Yes, it wasn't as big as the Mick Foley problem. You understand, this is the middle of the PG era. Health and safety are two of the biggest things going on.
Mm-hmm.
They took probably about a 15 to 19-foot fall off the cell into two tables.
Mm-hmm.
Dolph Ziggler is one of the biggest sellers, as is Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, I'll say this, from his time at FCW to now, has improved on his selling.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I definitely enjoyed about this match was just... I actually enjoyed the back and forth between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman in the match until that was ruined.
Right. And I can see that as well. And it was weird to me that they would end it with both of them being knocked out, quote unquote. The two powerhouses of Raw, the big dog and the monster among men, brought down to the level of cruiserweights, in my opinion, just being knocked out by two F5s, basically.
One per person, I mean.
And technically, Braun took the blunt end of Roman's
Yeah, because Roman landed right on top of him, and at first when I saw that,
It
I
looked
thought
like
that
Roman
somehow
Reigns'
Mick was
knee-
gonna
in
after
my
Brock left, Mick was gonna slide into the ring,
count
and
for
Roman was gonna be on top, and I thought I would have at least wanted that ending.
right.
But to leave it at a no contest was
There's
very
going to be some
controversial.
interesting conflicts tonight on Raw. We're recording this on Sunday night. I'm posting it Monday, so I'm saying tonight. Well, basically, y'all see this tomorrow. But yeah, it really made me feel disappointed.
Definitely, there could have been a lot more done to that match to make it probably the best of the night and all that. But all in all, I was pleased with the back and forth between Braun and Roman. And some of the ideas I actually didn't think were going to happen, but ultimately, there was just a lot left unsaid and undone that, could have made up for the ending towards that match.
Right. And now we're going to talk about the Super Showdown matches that we got pulled up here. These are some of them, and then we're going to talk about one that was confirmed tonight.
Okay.
First match on the list is Triple H versus Undertaker. It was a singles match. It's called The Last Ever.
There's one of two ways, in my opinion, that can happen with this match. It being the last of its kind ever and all that, or the last of it ever.
Or like Undertaker/Ride, so to speak.
So it could be, that this is the last match for the Undertaker. That, this will be the last ever for the Undertaker that we see. Or it could be, again, that it's the last of the feud between Undertaker and Triple H that
The last
this will
two
decide.
wrestlers of the Attitude Era that are still around.
Exactly.
The next match and you want to give a prediction now, or you want to wait?
We'll wait. We'll post all of our predictions closer towards the date.
Yeah.
And it'll actually be.
If y'all like Josh being on the podcast, y'all leave a like and comment down below. Y'all want to see more Josh? # more Josh. All right, the next match on the list is, I don't want to even talk about this match. Bobby Lashley and John Cena taking on Elias and Kevin Owens. It's going to be a squash.
Out of these, we know which team obviously needs this win more to establish themselves in WWE. To me, that's Elias and Kevin Owens.
Right. And John Cena is overrated. He don't want to walk with Elias. He doesn't want to listen to what Kevin Owens has to say.
Because nobody can see him and nobody can see what he's doing in the company, and yet he randomly gets matches like this and comes back and thinks that he's still the best around.
Right, and barely can wrestle a match with the new face of the company.
And see, Bobby Lashley in a way is
also
also
like Enzo and Cass when they teamed up with John Cena.
Yeah, I mean, but Bobby Lashley's also overrated in a way, same as John Cena because of his recent history.
The U.S. title in the SmackDown brand.
He could have, but
should have, would have, could have.
Yeah, exactly.
Next up, the stipulation I just read.
I just saw it too.
Daniel Bryan versus The Miz to determine the number one contender for the WWE Championship. That's going to be interesting because I wonder if Maurice is going to get involved. For her husband, the A-lister, The Miz.
Here's what I'm thinking. Daniel Bryan versus The Miz. Let's go one of two ways. One of them doesn't seem likely, the other one does. If Daniel Bryan wins this match and becomes number one contender, that would mean that Samoa Joe has got to win his match against AJ Styles at Super Showdown.
Right.
To keep going with that face-heel matchup. However, if The Miz wins yet again against Daniel Bryan for some reason, then AJ Styles is probably going to retain. So that The Miz, again, feeling that heel persona, can take on AJ Styles' face.
We saw what happened when they tried the book heel, face versus face. They turned someone heel. That was a bad call, in my opinion. Styles is too loved. I mean, Nakamura is still too loved by the community. Wait till he lost the U.S. title to Jeff, and then could have had something that happened there.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to talk about a match you just mentioned. It's going to be AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, in a no disqualification match. It was confirmed by Paige on Hell in a Cell.
I am extremely excited.
Because we talked about this earlier. Their TNA runs, they did a lot of hardcore, non-normal style matchups and spots. Like Styles hitting a springboard shooting star press onto the side, the ring floor.
Yep. See, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe are actually two of the best in the pro wrestling industry that can actually put on 5-star matches or higher
when they feel like it.
when they feel like it. And at the Super Showdown down under in Australia on October 6th, crikey, that match should be one of the best of that night, and I'm still looking forward to it.
All right, next up, the Shield: Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins taking on I'm calling them the Dogs of War.
Okay.
Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, and Dolph Ziggler. Because in Raw, we see Braun Strowman call them his Dogs of War. So it's catchy. I'm sticking with it.
Yep. If you ask me, this match of that night will probably be the most destructive match of that night.
It'll probably be either the intro of the show or the outro. But I can't see it being the outro with the Triple H Undertaker match.
Yeah, the Triple H and Undertaker match, I guarantee, will be the main event. It'll be the one to end their era. But the Shield versus the
I can see it being
Dogs
mid-show.
of War. Yeah. It could be a turning point for the show. Like, you got the rising action, the climax, and then the falling action. It can definitely be the climax of the show where, anything can happen.
I'm calling it, and y'all can get mad at me if you want. I'm calling it Dean Ambrose Hill.
I don't know if it'll be there or if it'll be at the following pay-per-view when yet again Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins will try to go after the tag team championships. Because
And
I bet...
Or we see this. We see Seth and Dean turn on Roman. Because think about it, Roman ain't really been helping them out.
No, he hasn't, but at the same time, it's because he's been focused on that Universal title.
That doesn't mean nothing. Seth Rollins put his Intercontinental running to the side to help his brother.
Yeah, that is true. I guess we'll have to see on October 6th.
As y'all can tell, I love heels. They're my favorite thing.
Yep. Heels had the most fun in the ring.
All right, so you call out the next matchup for Super Show.
All right. Next matchup, we've got the Bella Twins, Brie and Nikki Bella, and Ronda Rousey versus the Riot Squad. Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, and Sarah Logan.
It's going to be a squash.
That is definitely going to be a squash, if you ask me. Again, they are pushing Ronda Rousey so much that
Strap a rocket to her.
it's either pretty much. I mean, shooting her to the moon, she's going to dominate on the moon. Wherever she goes, she's going to dominate the business. And if you ask me, even if it's not a squash match, even if the Riot Squad stands some sort of a chance against their team, they're still going to lose. I'm pretty much calling it now, at least the prediction for this match, that the Bella Twins and Ronda Rousey are going to win this match. Because it's just meant to be.
All right, next up is a good match. I'm going to explain my reasoning. I'm going to give my prediction on this. It's going to be Cedric Alexander, the current Cruiserweight champion, taking on the hometown boy, well, the country hometown boy, basically, of Buddy Murphy.
That I'm always stoked for the Cruiserweights.
Because we don't see him a lot.
We don't see them a lot. They always do something to make themselves stand out.
All right,
compared.
let me say this. From the Austin Aries Neville match onward were good matches. Before then,
They were iffy. And that was partly because, I don't think that Enzo Amore should have been anywhere near those types of matches.
right. He should stick to being a singles.
Exactly.
Job.
Pretty much. But Cedric Alexander, a phenomenal young man, going up against Buddy Murphy, who is...
A vet, actually. He's been in NXT for years.
I know, he's starting to rise up a lot more and get in everybody's face.
He's supposed to be a heel, technically.
He is, even though he's supposed to technically be a heel. The man is totally loved by all of his fans, all the fans out there, and that match is definitely going to be a great match. I can definitely tell you.
And fun fact, give me one moment. He is from Melbourne, Victoria, Australia.
So again, he's going to be fighting in his home country.
He's going to come out with some Australian flag gear. Just, I know.
Excuse me. Should we technically call it country, or should we call it continent?
Continent. He's going to wear his home flag.
Right, he's fighting for his home, so it'll definitely be a great match.
All right, you want to call this next one? Because I can't stand these guys.
Absolutely. You've got the New Day, whether it's Big E and Kofi and Xavier, or Big E and Xavier,
Sorry,
versus the Bar.
If y'all couldn't tell my reaction, I can't stand the New Day. They're overhyped.
They are overhyped. Every now and then, we have a bit of fun, but for the most part, them being champions, while it may be fun,
It's got to end eventually.
We need
please.
some serious champions. Like, we need champions
We have
that are there to fight all the time.
And there are some tag teams that would be great opponents for the bar. Usos, Rusev Day. They put on a phenomenal match.
Tonight at Hell in a Cell,
The
Rusev
kickoff
Day versus New Day, the kickoff match. I mean, the kickoff match and the very ending to that kickoff match sent me getting up from my seat. Like I had to stand a little bit to understand what was going on, to actually comprehend with my eyes.
I couldn't.
Because
I could not.
Rusev Day was so close to taking out the New Day.
And if it wouldn't have been for, I'm gonna call it was bad booking.
It was. Totally, I would have even been fine with the fact that Rusev Day gets the championship tonight, and then they have their rematch, and the New Day gets it back then.
That would have solidified English and Rusev as legitimate threats to the tag team division.
Yes, and that's what all of the fans want to see. We keep cheering for Rusev Day.
Because we love it.
We want Rusev and we want Aiden English to work. And we think that they work well together when they're written correctly.
All right, this next one I'm actually curious about. It's going to be Asuka and Naomi taking on the Iconics, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. Again, I'm not 100% sure on this. I'll look it up in a second. I think one of them is actually from Australia.
Possibly. I think it's one of the Iconics that's from Australia.
Well, we know it ain't Asuka.
Is an Australian?
It's Billie Kay.
Yep. And what about Peyton? Is an Australian. Both of them are. So both of the Iconics are actually Australian wrestlers. Here's my thing with this match. Asuka and Naomi versus the Iconics, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. I definitely think that the Iconics will probably pull out the victory because they need it more to solidify themselves as a tag team within women's.
I would love to see them push Asuka correctly again, but it won't happen.
It won't happen, at least not during this match.
Turn her heel, though. Turn her heel on Naomi at the end.
No, I'd actually prefer to see Naomi as a heel.
Well, I can't because she's going in as a face with her husband in the Mixed Match Challenge.
But then again, you also had Asuka and The Miz as a mixed tag team.
It would make sense to have Asuka be heel and join up with Miz and do more evil-looking mask and gear.
Well, then let's just agree that either Asuka or Naomi or both of them should do a heel turn.
Right. All right, last match that we have for right now. Oh, wait, there's not a match on here that they've been advertising nonstop. But we'll get to it in a minute. Mm-hmm. We got Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair for the title.
Yep.
Becky. I'm sorry, Becky's Becky.
Yeah, Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch is a phenomenal fighter and wrestler. And again, like I said earlier, she's one of the workhorses of the WWE's women's division.
Right. And most people I can only consider her overrated. I consider her underrated. And here's why. She's phenomenal on the mic. She had a great interaction with the fans as a face. Still has great interaction with them as a heel. They still chant for her all day long. Mm-hmm. And I don't agree with... Yes, I can see the heel turn. I love the heel turn. I wish they would have changed up her ring gear and make it more steampunk-ish. Because steampunk style really don't care what other people think.
Mm-hmm. However, we're already seeing the effects of her turning heel with her entrance as well as in-ring style. She's more aggressive in-ring as most heels are.
We didn't see the Beck Exploder as much, though.
Nope. However, we did get to see her be able to reverse a lot of things that normally she wouldn't if she was a face.
Right. And
I mean, she's getting smarter in the ring.
Right. And the last match that we have right now that we know about is Alexa Bliss taking on Trish Stratus. Oh, dear God.
I'm excited to see Trish Stratus again, but
I'm
at
not.
The same time, I'm not. Yeah.
I mean, I loved her back in the day. Mm-hmm. That was back in the day. This is modern era. Let Alexa Bliss run the brands as the dominant heel woman. Or set her up with Becky Lynch. Drop Alicia Fox. Drop Mickie James. Or better yet, make Mickie James their advisor or their manager. She's been around the block.
Or better yet, even just make it to where Alexa doesn't know who her opponent is, but is told that she has a match. And if ready in time, have Nia Jax make a return and destroy the one person who she used to call a friend but now despises.
Right, like she did at WrestleMania.
Exactly. It's just what needs to happen. But bringing a legend of the women's division back
I can
to
see
have
it.
a match.
Well, there's
against
also rumors of
somebody-
Lita making a return.
Yeah. And I mean, I have no opposition whatsoever.
But
for
Lita
Lisa.
hasn't, and I'm let's listen, and Becky Lynch are two of my favorite women wrestlers. They have been because they're both phenomenal mic workers and in-ring workers. Both have phenomenal finishes. I wish they'd let her use Sparkle Splash more. But it's technically called Twisted Bliss. I'm calling it what it should be called. And that's what I have on those matches. Any prediction what's going to happen with Raw? How many people are going to see frustrated?
I do think there are going to be some frustrated people, including the wrestlers who were a part of that match. You know, that match was a very unclean ending. It was very.
I just thought of something. Did they leave Drew and Dean on top of the cell?
I believe so.
Lunatic and the...
The Scottish psychopath.
What could go wrong?
Yep, right. With the show, there's definitely going to be some confusion. There's definitely going to be some people upset with how it turned out. But I think all of it will be sorted out on the show. I don't think they'll wait for another date later. They're going to figure out everything
But I
that
think
happened
they're
and fix it.
Try to do it again tomorrow night. But we're going to hear that same crappy music that he's had for since day one. Brock's going to come out. But I think they're going to have the entire lot for him. They're trying to stop him.
Yep. I mean, again, it's not fair to have Brock Lesnar come back now that he's not champion. You know, we've seen enough of him in the past few months with that championship. He shouldn't be in the championship title picture anymore. So, honestly, you know, he just needs to up and leave like he's wanting to do, like we all know he's wanting to do. Go back to UFC.
And bring back somebody we want. Neville.
Bring back Neville, even if he's not Universal material. Or put somebody who deserves to be back in the Universal title picture.
Finn Balor.
I mean, Finn Balor,
It still has a legitimate claim to the championship.
because he lost it to something that he really couldn't help after being injured versus his match with Seth Rollins.
Which was a phenomenal match for the time.
It was, and he fought through his injury to win it.
And then we saw him take on Roman Reigns, but...
But of course they're going to let Roman Reigns win.
Right.
Because Roman Reigns is
And I think...
kissing up to Vince McMahon.
Right, and I can see they were trying to push Finn, and now they don't know what to do with him.
And, you know, if you wanted to figure out what to do with him,
Let the IC title on.
IC title, I mean, even give him a brand change. Switch him over to SmackDown and have him
already
win
have
one
the
of the
Good
titles
Brothers
over there. Exactly.
You have AJ Styles over there.
Yep.
You do the math.
I mean,
But with that being said, guys, I think we're done with this episode. This has to be one of the longest episodes I've done on the Slayin Cajun podcast. But tell them where they can find you on social media.
right now, I have mainly, it's just my Facebook, and you can actually look me up at my actual Facebook. It's Joshua Pirtle. Pirtle is Pirtle.
I normally link it in the description. That's up to you at your discretion.
You can, absolutely. But y'all can look me up there. Over the course of the next few months or so, I'm going to be actually starting my own Instagram, posting pictures and videos of me training with Pro Wrestling Ego here in Jackson, Mississippi.
Forgot to mention that. We're going to make this a little bit longer. Their show coming up.
Yes, absolutely.
Feel Invincible 2.
Yep.
Our dear friend, J.D. Jenkins, has the Square Circle Survival Medallion.
Which is basically the equivalent to the Money in the Bank.
This is they're gonna get mad at us for doing this, but I don't care. They're like, y'all put us in right with that Hell in the Cell match, really? Sorry, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the show, even though I'm not gonna be there.
See, you know, there's a lot of things that could happen with Pro Wrestling Ego and where their next show is going to. You know, rivalries that are set to collide and end at this show with the tag team division, as well as possible surprise matches with the champion versus possibly J.D. Jenkins.
Right, and also the tag team titles.
Exactly. You know, we haven't seen the Path of Nightmares in a while, and you know, it's long overdue for them to return and to try and find worthy opponents.
Right. Now, with that being said, guys, I've been your host, Cajun, aka Joseph from Slayin, Cajun Podcast, and owner of Cajun Entertainment. I've been here with Joshua Pirtle. This has been your Slayin Cajun Podcast for Hell in the Cell, and our host for Frozen Egos, Bill Invincible 2. That being said, peace out.